Hello and welcome to Red, White, and Bye.
We're on episode 6. I'm Hannah.
And I'm Ash. Thanks for joining us. Hannah's going to start us off with a little update on our Hamtramck story from last week.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so I looked into this a little bit more, and I do mean like a very little bit more. And I have just a couple updates on what we talked about. Again, this was last week, episode 5. Coked Out Cheerleader, I think was the name of that episode. So we talked about the city of Hamtramck, Michigan, and how it's being really heavily influenced in terms of city council, elected officials, and lawmaking by religious groups. And that the latest development that we were both pretty shocked to hear about is that the gay pride flag is banned, legally banned in the city of Hamtramck, Michigan, which seems wildly unconstitutional. Apparently, it's been banned since 2023. And so I looked into it a little bit more. And shock of all shocks, it's possible that the story has been maybe a little sensationalized or at least a little pandered toward like outrage, like trying to elicit a certain response. It is true that it's outlawed. But what I found out is that it kind of started as one person's personal pet project, just a guy who was excited about the cultural diversity in the city of Hamtramck. He had this little, like, I don't know, project that he did where he raised flags to represent all the different ethnic groups that are in that city. Like we mentioned last week, it's a really like diverse area in Metro Detroit because of the auto industry, and people came from all over the world to get jobs here. And so we have some like really distinct ethnic groups that kind of settled around the city. So he had all these different flags from, I think they were like 17 or so in all, from all the different like major groups that were represented in the city. And so he did this like year after year. He was some sort of city official. And originally when he started, there was Hamtramck is traditionally Polish. There was a Polish woman who was like head of city council. But the rising religious Muslim majority was, not super pleased about the gay flag and stuff like that. So as she left her post as an elected official and a Muslim official got elected, and again, to be clear, this is not about which religion. We're just concerned that religion is making its way into laws. Actually, it sounds like just to cut down a little bit on all the tension between ethnic groups and cultures and religions, it was, I think, a maybe partially honest attempt at cutting the tension and just saying, okay, the only flag that's going to be flown is the United States flag, which may sound familiar.
Yeah.
So that was, I guess, Hamtramck did it first. Hashtag did it first. So then this guy felt really strongly about his project and continued to do his annual raising of the flags. And of course, the gay flag was one of those. And it escalated from there. So while the video that we showed a clip of, or I should say, like put a soundbite in, made it seem like it was the gay flag itself that was targeted, it was one of many that the legislation was like supposedly against. And it did draw particular ire from religious groups because it was against the religion. But that's not the whole story. Long-winded explanation to say it's not quite the whole story.
Yeah, and I will say that although, the federal government or any state legislature might say, hey, we're only going to fly the American flag on your own residence, if you want to put a Christian flag, a Nazi flag, a Gadsden flag, whatever kind of flag, an ISIS flag, you should be able to do that. So
yeah, and it's not clear to me if the legislation was only aimed at city buildings, because this guy's little project, he was a city employee and he was doing it on city property. So I don't know if maybe the intention was that city property will only show the US flag, but obviously it escalated. So I found out it's a little bit more complicated than it was being presented. And the other thing I found out is that there is an active lawsuit. So there's a lawsuit against the city of Hamtramck and the mayor who was in charge at the time.
Gotcha. So thank you for adding some context because we would never want to like over dramatize or sensationalize something that really isn't true. That's not what we're about. So I'm grateful to Hannah for looking into it. Also, we couldn't find, as promised, I said I was going to look it up, any like Christian fundamentalist city councils who'd done anything similar. If there is something and you guys want to send it in, we're happy to change that as well and correct it. But I just, quick Google search couldn't find anything like that.
Yeah, and certainly historically, we acknowledge that that has absolutely been the case. Like in years past, there's been like some Christian laws that have passed and stood for a while, and I think anyone today could admit that there's probably like de facto situations like that where it might not be actual legislation, but you know, fires and pitchforks, the townsfolk ain't gonna stand for it.
Those damn crusades.
Right.
Yeah, so shit happens, but hopefully shit changes, and maybe one day in Hamtramck things will just kind of go back to normal and people can have any
Yeah,
kind
because
of
it
flag
is
they
a really
want.
cool city, and like it's like stepping outside of the United States and into like all these different countries on fast forward. So like it would be great if they could find some common ground and get along. I think the story is more about that laws shouldn't tell you what you can and can't do on your personal property.
And while we're on the subject of a past episode, I just have to confide in our audience that I did have a dream because of the title Coked Up Cheerleader, wherein George W. Bush died for our sins of a drug overdose, and I think it's Hannah's fault. So I'm
How
just
is it
putting it.
my fault?
Well, you're the one who said he was a coked up
You
cheerleader.
all but said it. I just like, did a synopsis of what you were saying.
Okay,
We know he
okay.
was on coke. We know he was a cheerleader.
But maybe
I
not
mean,
at the same
maybe
time.
allegedly on coke. I don't want to get us in trouble, but I'm gonna say quite allegedly on coke.
So, really, it was just another of those performance enhancing drugs we were talking about. You gotta lift some betties, It's easier when.
Lift Betty's. I'm not hip to the drug speak. What does that mean?
Oh, I was just saying that you lift a lady. It's not drug speak.
Oh, like a Betty is a cheerleader.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, like a real Betty.
you want to
Anyway,
go downtown and lift some Betty's?
I mean, kinda.
Oh no, I
As
have
long
no
as
idea
you're
what I
one.
just signed up for.
So moving on to current events. First of all, because I'm not a scientist, but I'm married to one, I thought I would also have Hannah tell you guys a little bit about this Chinese attempt at bringing in some bioterrorist agents this week.
So, in keeping with my general work ethic, I haven't looked into this a ton, but I read the articles you sent me, Ash, and they're calling it agro-terrorism, which I think is just really catchy and should be like a music genre. But what it means is that it's like agricultural terrorism. So it is bio. Okay, back up. What happened was someone came over actually through the Metro Detroit airport, which was news to me as of circa 1 hour ago, with samples of a fungus that was being worked on in a laboratory in China, bringing it to Michigan with the goal of meeting up with, I don't remember if it was the boyfriend meeting the girlfriend or the girlfriend meeting the boyfriend, but one half of the couple was planning on bringing these samples to their significant other at the University of Michigan laboratory, where their significant other was working on the same species of fungus. Now, the reason it's called agroterrorism, it is bioterrorism. This agent is considered to be on the agroterrorism list because of what it attacks. It's a concern for crops. So the same way like the potato famine was influenced by like a mold or a fungus growing on potatoes in Ireland, this is something similar to that. I don't know how similar exactly, but it's in the mold family, in the fungus family, and it would be a concern for like mass producing crops.
Well, and here's my question. We're just sitting here in little old Michigan, and of all the places in the whole damn world, Why do some Chinese agents gotta bring some bio fungi to our door? Of all the places, come
Well,
on.
as my uncle once told my dad, like there is really good farmland in Michigan. It's like kind of renowned for it, I guess. We have like good topsoil or something.
So they really want this nasty agent to grow really well in our beautiful Michigan topsoil?
And then the other reason, of course, as a U of M alumni, am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Okay, so as a U of M alumni, you realize that like U of M is like considered like is it considered Ivy League or nearly? It's like a really prestigious school with a lot of cool research.
It's it's the one of the best public schools that is not Ivy League in the country, and it's ranked higher than Cornell, which, as Andy Bernard can tell you, is just in the Ivy League. But well, he'd say it was great, but everybody else agrees Cornell's just a joke. So we're ranked above them.
All I know about Cornell is that for some reason my school district had like the biggest boner for Cornell style note taking. We all had to learn it. We had a class on Cornell style notes, and then we were like it was like somebody forcing a left-handed child to use their right hand. Like we had to take our notes Cornell style, and it was the dumbest shit I've ever done.
So basically, one of the people who worked at your school attended Cornell and was just like Andy Bernard.
I think somebody like had a chip on their shoulder that they didn't attend Cornell, and so they're like, "What's the next best thing? I'll force all these students." Like, who reinvents note taking?
Oh man,
It's the simplest thing. You don't have to reinvent it. It's not broken.
it's like how MLA is far superior, but some people are just like, let's do this a completely different way for citations. And you're like, fuck you, I do what I want.
Anyway, back to the fusarium mold. So it came in through Michigan. They caught it. According to experts, it's not super high on the list of like tragically awful agro-terrorist species. They're quoted as saying like they have the tools to handle it if it were to get out of the lab. But it's still like, I mean, it's nerve-wracking. Nobody wants like foreign sources of things that could be potentially devastating to, American crops.
And really, just as a sidebar, you have to think about the fact that a lot of farmland has been purchased by people connected to the CCP in China. So if they were even able to smuggle this in and get it in a lab setting to do whatever they wanted to do with it, then they could leak it to the farmland that they already own and then just perpetuate it and take off. Maybe that would be a really bad thing. So,
Yeah, I'm not exactly up on how farming in America works in 2025, but
me neither.
it doesn't seem like it's a good thing.
And I'll just say, as a sidebar, that the governor of Arizona just vetoed a bill which would have nixed CCP connected people buying up more land. And people are going to take a really close look at her now. So,
Well, and this is something you've told me about that it's actually like a hugely growing rate of Chinese nationals buying American. Is it just farmland or real estate in general?
I think it's land, but I think there is a huge focus on farmland, which is, if you're an American farmer and maybe you're going to expand or whatever, that's just like possibly on a personal level less opportunity for you. But when you think about the fact that Chinese people, all walks of life aren't necessarily bad at all, but that China is not somebody we necessarily consider an ally.
Well, and it's not Chinese private citizens that are buying
Right,
this land.
exactly.
It's like Chinese government
Yeah.
officials or employees or like agents of some type.
Yeah, and CCP connected individuals specifically. So I just didn't want to go into this with like, Ash said Chinese people are bad.
And Ashley, for the record, what does CCP stand for?
Chinese Communist Party.
Oh. See, I always thought it was like Chinese People's Republic, and I was like, isn't it CPP? And then it would be CPR anyway, so wow, okay. What are you drinking, Ash?
I'm drinking champagne.
Yeah, I don't know, I've been craving champagne lately, so we're drinking champagne.
Second bottle in like less than a week.
Luscious, both of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. So we have to get into the biggest story of the week, dare I say,
Mm.
the rift between Elon Musk and Donald Trump.
Why are mom and dad fighting?
And speaking of which, our poll question this week is if Trump and Elon, one of them's mom, one of them's dad, which one's which? Is Trump the daddy and Elon's the mommy, or Elon's the dad and Trump's the mommy? And who do you want to go with, you know?
Who are you going to spend your weekends and holidays with, and who gets you over summer vacation?
I think Trump is already Uncle Dad, personally. That's what I think. I think, as Hannah put it, Mama Musk is the way to go.
I think Mama Musk, I just appreciate the alliteration. It's hard for me to find, wow, the rabbit hole of gender roles that I do not want to go down right now. It's hard for me to find traditionally feminine or masculine or motherly or fatherly attributes in either of them.
It's amazing though that it's Pride Month and more people are making gay jokes about this than I've seen gay jokes made in the past 10 years.
Yeah, it's like gay jokes are back, and I'm not upset, except have some intellectual consistency, please. I was scrolling Facebook as one does, trying to fall asleep, and a sponsored post came up from a really like leftist group, not one that I follow, but it was, like an advertised post on my feed. And it said something along the lines of like, this bromance breakup is the gayest thing since Pride started. Like, I don't know, since like Stonewall or whatever. um I don't know how to take that. So like, are we using gay like we did in the 90s? Is gay like a negative thing now? Like, and why is a leftist page throwing around gay like it's a slur?
And really, like, obviously, the best you could say is that you're saying it like homo, and these are two men who've been married multiple times who have a slew of babies, so are they really homo?
And I don't care if they are. What if they did fuck? I really don't care. The story is that they're fighting, not their orientation or their whatever. Maybe I'm taking it too seriously, but I just thought it was like in bad taste.
And the big thing is that Trump said that Elon just got mad that EV subsidies were canceled in the big beautiful bill. So Elon then posted a video from December of 2021 where he said he didn't want subsidies for EVs.
But rewind all the way back. So it started with Trump saying that there's going to be some distance now between the administration and Elon. So it was like a soft firing, basically, or like, we're not going to fire you, but you should probably resign or like step back. So it started with like the weird like distance between the two. Then
basically Elon said that he didn't like the bill. He said that it was a disaster.
Well, he said the quiet thing out loud. Here, Elon was brought in to like slash spending and find waste and like fraud and excess in the budget. Cool, fine. I don't know all the details, but it seems like he found quite a bit if it's true. And then you have this big, beautiful bill that the guy who hired him to cut waste is proposing. And it is, as Ash said, full of pork. Like, what did you say? It was going to raise the debt by?
Basically, it's going to add 1.8 trillion in the next fiscal year, which Trump in his first term already added 7 trillion in debt. And then I think it's 1.8 each subsequent year. So
basically, Trump is saying, like, hey, come in, piss all these people off, make the country hate you, like, be the sacrificial lamb, find all this money for me so I can spend it however the fuck I want.
But I think if we go back even like a week further, the Republicans didn't codify the Doge cuts. So everything Elon worked on, which was supposed to be like 2 trillion in waste, was not cut down to billions as promised. It was cut down to millions. And then that wasn't codified. So what my guess is that Elon learns this. he has a pissy fit at Trump over it, or anybody that would listen. And then they're sort of like, Elon's taking a step back. And then Elon says, basically, this bill is bullshit. It's a disaster. And then it starts to get dirty because Trump says it's only the EV subsidies that we're cutting that is pissing him off. He goes, here's a video of me saying I didn't want those years ago and that nobody should get subsidies. And then from there, it's this like back and forth where Elon just says, I'm going to drop this big bomb. Trump's in the Epstein files.
And is there a way for him, like, it's not like Musk got access to the Epstein files, right? I mean, like, he doesn't know.
I mean, I don't know that for sure. I don't know if he did or he didn't.
On paper, he doesn't
I
have
don't know.
access to it. There'd be no reason for him, right?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. Like, obviously they haven't been made public, because if they had, we'd all be reading them.
And he has no professional reason to see them. So if he did see them, it was unofficial and it was probably breaking some kind of confidentiality clearance rule.
Well, and then the bigger thing is people are, tweeting him and saying, you got him elected and you knew he was in there, which he didn't necessarily, because it's like, what if you did get access to the files, but only after you became somebody in the Trump administration?
And I think we're all at least still pretending there's like a vote process. Like, you can't just get someone elected. You can support them, you can throw your money around. End of the day, he didn't get him elected.
Yeah.
You can tell who's I'm spending weekends and holidays with, I guess.
Well, and it's sort of like he knows that he influence peddled for Trump, and he says that Trump is ungrateful, both, I think, for all of that, like jumping up in a MAGA hat stuff, and also like just all the work he did on Doge, because it's thrown out the window if they don't codify the changes. So between what's actually in the bill, which is this 10-year ban or blocking of people who are going to restrict AI, which has nothing to do with spending or cuts, and just like so many pages that in 72 hours, which was all I think was allotted for the members of Congress to read it, they couldn't possibly have read it. So there are people who admitted, I'm in the House, I voted for it, and I shouldn't have because I didn't read it. And one of those people is Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's one of the dumbest conservative reps in politics. But I mean, I don't think that's going to help her because she already voted on it. But the people in the Senate are probably like, oh crap, like we would be in trouble if we just voted on this without knowing what's in it. That's kind of like the Affordable Care Act when Nancy Pelosi said, we have to pass it so we can find out what's in it.
Yeah, but it didn't stop people then. It's not stopping people now. I don't think it's maybe ever stopped Congress. They don't, I would be shocked if many people read the things they vote on at all. It's like there's money changing hands and favors and quid pro quo, and like you vote with your party line. You toe the line.
Well, I will say that I am friends with someone who's running for Congress right now, and I won't say who, but he was talking about releasing a video today about how he feels about this bill. And I basically told him that it's okay to blame Congress for, like putting a big turd out there if he's not in Congress yet, because I looked up the approval rating and the most recent one I could find is 29%.
Only slightly better than the Comcast approval rating.
So basically, this is getting really ugly. I am 100% team Elon. I like that he's posting some of my favorite economists like Thomas Sowell and Milton Friedman, and that he seemed to really buddy up with Javier Milei from Argentina. So I'm just hoping that he either takes control of the Libertarian Party, starts his own party, or probably the most realistic thing, finds a way to influence and control the Republican Party. I'm all for an oligarch who actually believes in freedom.
Until the one who comes after him.
Who's coming after?
We don't know. That's the thing. That's why you don't want oligarchs.
Well, right now he hates the government, and all I want is people with lots of money who hate the government. I want Galt's Gulch.
Well, I think if nothing else, we can say that like this is a really weird time. Like, I don't think people have many illusions about like the integrity of Congress people or the intentions to serve the everyday man by people in the executive branch. Like, I don't think people hold Congress and the president and people in high power in very high esteem. Like, they're not respectable, they're not honest, they don't care about their constituents in general. I don't think that's like an unheard of concept and hasn't been for a long time. But now I feel like people are saying the quiet thing out loud. The people in the executive branch are acknowledging the quiet thing out loud. And it's just all out in the open in front of everybody. And it's this weird, uncomfortable meta space where like everybody knows what's happening and it's still just happening. And it's kind of ugly. It's like when you like catch somebody cheating on you and you know and they know you know and they're just doing it anyway, and like we're not even pretending that like he's going out with the guys for a beer after work. Like we all, it's weird.
Well, I will say, though, that there are some people that I like that I follow on social media who are, members of Congress who seem to be saying, like, let's come to the table. Can't we all just get along? I'm kind of enjoying watching somebody with as much power as a private citizen can have compared to the president just blowing shit up. I think it's fantastic. I don't want them to get along. I think business and politics, like the more they mix, the more it looks like fascism. So I'm kind of proud to have somebody who I think cares a lot more about Americans than a politician just calling them on their shit. So I'm happy today.
I'll be proud if it amounts to anything. Like anyone can run their mouth, anyone can go on social media, especially today. Like anyone can get their 15 minutes in the spotlight. Um, I will say that I think this is kind of a funny situation to watch, like liberals and GOP kind of like scramble to like reorganize their opinions about these two guys. Um, so it's like, the liberals hate Trump and Musk, but now they hate each other. So like, do they still hate them both? Or like, do they pick a side? And then like, the Trumpers, obviously they're going to hate Elon, but who sides with Elon? Is it only the independents? Like, do maybe some leftists see the value of going against Trump? I'm curious to see. I feel like everyone's scrambling a little bit to like rebrand themselves.
I think you're right about that. And I think that it's interesting and will segue into our next story. But I want to say that Hannah's right. That
Thank you.
that basically, I think you're seeing like a walkaway movement, not just from the left, but you're seeing it from the Republican Party as well. You're seeing people just kind of form their own path because of stuff like this. I saw one woman post that she was a 3-time Trump voter and that Elon had opened her eyes to the fact that he was far from perfect and that she was Team Elon. And that was really interesting because I think people probably on the left look at the right and think that Trump supporters are a cult, and people on the right look at the left and think they're a cult. And anybody who's willing to just ask questions realize that their questions aren't really being answered and kind of just do their own thing has my respect.
It's weird to see, and I think I know where you're going with this. It's weird to see people start to, again, say the quiet thing out loud where it's like, maybe left and right are the same two boots kicking us while we're down. And maybe it's time to walk away. And very much in keeping with our podcast kind of aim, maybe it's time to walk away from this broken, shitty, patched up, dysfunctional two party system.
So, in keeping with the topic of walking away, there was also a story on Karine Jean-Pierre, the former Biden press secretary, who now says she's leaving the Democratic Party and going independent.
I would say I'm shocked, but I think we're starting to hear little tidbits of people walking away from their parties here and there. Maybe it's because I'm paying attention more lately, or maybe it's because like I said, people are fed up, and they absolutely should be.
Well, and I will say too, anybody who was directly involved in the Biden is okay, Biden's not okay cover up might want to take a little break from the Democratic Party, even if it's temporary. So now she gets to write a book, hope people buy it. In her view, maybe they'll be so curious about what she knew or didn't know that they'll buy it and she won't have to do anything anymore because, like, that's the dream, right? But she could also pivot. She could pivot to, Hannah, have you heard of the Forward Party? I just heard of that today.
No.
So it's a new Yang party.
Oh, Yang! I
He,
liked him.
ugh.
I know you hated him. I thought he was. I thought he was nice.
he was he can be nice, but universal basic income is a commie idea that would never work. But he is trying to bring in Mark Cuban, Matthew McConaughey, any celebrity he
What?
can think of. He forgets that Matthew McConaughey wore Rand Paul t-shirts. I don't think you're going to have a lot of luck with
All
Matthew
right, all
McConaughey.
right, all
He's
right.
going to be like, that's all wrong, all wrong, all wrong. But I'll make you a margarita, knock your horns off. So basically, it's possible that you could go independent, maybe find a temporary home in something like that, and then return later on to the Democratic Party if it suits your fancy.
And if they'll take you back, I'm not sure you get to walk away from either of these parties and have any kind of success once you return, if you return. I will say, like, I feel for her. I feel for any press secretary. Like, that seems, and Ash, we were talking about this morning, actually. That seems like such a demoralizing job that, like, anyone with a scrap of a soul, like, I feel like you can see it in their eyes when they're trying to put a positive spin on things. And for Karine with the Biden administration, like, whether or not there's any truth to some of the scandals that we hear about is beside the point. The fact is he had an abysmal approval rating. And she's the face of it. She's the one who's got to take all the complaints on the phone line. She's the one that's got to, like, spin it into something positive. And I feel like you can watch them, like, die a little bit every time they have to do that. And I don't blame her for being fed up, whether or not, like, it's just professional exhaustion or what's going on. I don't think she had a good time the last 4 years.
Yeah, and to your point, if you are, and I would argue like all press secretaries on both sides of the aisle, basically a paid liar for the administration, if it's an administration that, to Hannah's point, is very unpopular, but also had a big scandal where you were hiding things probably more than any administration in history, how do you get credibility back if you don't say, guess what, everybody? I was a paid liar. That's why I'm walking away from this.
Time to spill the tea.
All right, it's a wrap for this week. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to take our poll if you're listening on Spotify. Do you think Trump is the dad and Elon is the mommy, or the other way around?
And who do you want to spend Christmas and holidays with? Who's going to give you better vacations or a better birthday party? They're both loaded, so it's kind of a tie.
And who gets Joe Rogan?